MotoSport.com was founded in 1999. To commemorate that, we're giving away 2 dirt bikes. 2 lucky winners will have the choice of a 1999 Ricky Carmichael Replica KX250 built by Pro Circuit, or a 2019 Kawasaki 250 decked out with the best performance upgrades. On top of that, each winner will be provided with a head-to-toe set of Fox racing gear, as well as a chance to join MotoSport.com for a VIP experience at the Washougal National, July 27th. So on this week's episode, the crew from Motorsport heads down to Fox Racing to learn about the evolution of gear and what Ricky Carmichael wore to what current racers are wearing nowadays.
Hi, welcome to Fox Racing.
Hey guys, it's Mark Finley here at Fox Racing. I'm actually the director of the marketing department for motocross, for the motocross division. I've been with the brand for 20 years, so I've seen a lot of changes in racewear and protective product. I've seen the gamut basically from 1997 to today, so actually a little over 20 years. And what I'm going to do for you guys today is just walk you through some of the evolutions of product. All the product that you guys are wearing. As you know, there's been amazing developments through the years, fabrics, trims, specifically in helmets and boots as well from a protective standpoint. So I'll do my best to walk you guys through the evolution of our products. The one thing to note about Fox Racing, we actually started as a suspension company. So Bob Fox and Jeff Fox started this company in 1974. The main thing they were working on at the time was suspension parts. So they were making accessory kits or conversion kits for stock suspension on motorcycles at the time. They had a passion for riding dirt bikes, but at the time, dirt bike suspension was not up to par with the type of riding they wanted to do. So they realized quickly, Bob with an engineering background, Jeff Fox was actually a physics major, believe it or not, a professor. So Bob and Jeff started the suspension company to promote air shocks and promote suspension. They created a race team. So in 76, 77, they had this amazing race team, Steve Wise, Pat Richter, Mark Barnett, premier guys at the time that they brought onto a team to race for Fox shocks. So they outfitted the bikes with forks, rear shocks, and they realized they wanted the team riders to have a cool team look. So Jeff Fox figured out where he could get some product made, some racewear for his team riders. Well, immediately when they went to the races, people started asking, hey, where can I get that gear? So this is the mid-70s. As we rolled into 76, 77, the company literally split into 2. Bob Fox continued to do suspension, which is called Fox Factory. So they're the tail logo. Jeff Fox split off and pursued the garment side of the business. So Jeff started working with factories in Europe, getting racewear made, and that's essentially how Fox Racewear started. Cool, so as we look at racewear, what we're looking at here is really one of the more dynamic products in our range, which is our 360 pant. And the 360 pant, this is roughly mid-90s when we launched the 360, and it was pretty revolutionary at the time. And the original name 360, we're looking at a mid-90s 360 pant. Again, this was really the first version of the 360, was because there was 360 degrees of stretch around the knee area. So because we were using stretch Kevlar, this gave the pant full mobility around the knee area, this is when guys were starting to wear some knee braces, bigger knee guards, and we needed movement. We didn't want restriction for our top riders. So with the 360, a few other things that Pete brought to life that became synonymous with our pants, and we still use it, is our fly cam closure system. So this buckle system, it's a pretty simple system. A lot of brands use it now, but at the time, it was a ratchet system that allowed a rider to adjust the waist on the pant. As you know, back then, some guys wore kidney belts, some guys didn't, but they were definitely way more prevalent than they are now. Back in the day, Carmichael, Robbie Reynard, all these guys wore kidney belts. So having the adjustability in the waist, but also being able to really make it secure, this fly cam closure seems pretty simple now, but that was an innovation that Pete brought to market on a 360. But as we moved on, We're moving into the early 2000s. This is when Ricky Carmichael had now moved up to the 250 class, which is now the 450 class, and is when he really started to challenge McGrath for the championship. And Ricky really started to focus on his training program. So for us, that created a few challenges for us as far as getting a great understanding of his pant size or his overall body size. As you guys remember, when Ricky was winning titles, the training program that he was on was second to none, and that's really what helped him become the champion that he was. So we wanted to make sure we were adapting our racewear with his training program, with his body type. There was a time, I won't say this, but there was a time where he was really a 34, but we would put 32 labels in the pants, so he thought he was still a 32. Hopefully you're not rolling and you got that. But this is one of Ricky's 360 pants. Again, from early 2000s, this is when he was with Kawasaki. Again, this is when he really started to challenge for that 250 title. Quite honestly, this pant was still following the traditional motocross mold. And what I mean by that is there wasn't a lot of articulation. The pants were what we call straight leg. Not a lot of articulation in the pants, a lot of extra material bunching up on the riders, and just kind of a sloppy look, to be honest with you. So we really wanted to start to tackle that with our own in-house team. So from this period, as we started to move forward, we really started to slim pants up and started to play around with different materials that we could use. Also, these pants were really hot. You can see we have literally coated polyester or nylon materials. There's a coating on the back side of this that really makes it to where it's not breathable at all. So a lot of these considerations, keeping the rider cool, is what really started to help us bring our pants and our racewear to the next level. Keeping the rider cool, letting the rider perform at their highest levels was something that always helped direct us when it came to materials, trims, and fits on our race pants. Another challenge that we were having is the pants were getting heavy. We were using heavy thermal weld or rubber TPR logos on the pants. So the pants were starting to get heavy. As I mentioned earlier, we were trying to control heat. This version here, I can see this is a custom version we had made for Ricky, where we actually added mesh to the front of the standard 360 pant. This may have been one of the vented 360s that was in our line, but we realized there was definitely a challenge with heat and weight. So as we fast forward and we look at our new 360 pant, so this is what we're selling right now, it is substantially lighter than the old pants. One of the big things that we're doing here at Fox is we're using transfers. So this is a silicone heat transfer for the logo application now. Super technical. You're still getting a nice durable 600 denier polyester main body fabric, highly abrasion resistant, super durable fabric. Now we can apply a logo that's a nice raised logo, but it's super lightweight and it's bonded directly to the fabric. Now you can see the entire back of this pant is using a nice lightweight nylon mesh material. It's actually a really durable material. There's two reasons we're using this here. First of all, we want to keep the pant really cool behind the rider's leg and let the rider get heat out of his body. The other thing is this is a 4-way stretch material. So this gives us stretch all the way up the back of the thigh. So it goes all the way up the back of the thigh area here. We also brought this all the way down into the boot. Our idea was let's start using lighter weight, more vented materials that are actually being tucked into a boot anyways. Rather than carrying this coated polyester all the way down inside the boot, let's keep it light and breathable for riders. Now we're on to jerseys. There's been a lot of evolution in jerseys and there's a few areas, but the number one area of evolution on jerseys is fabric. It's a shame that the guys are racing in cotton jerseys at the time. This is a full cotton jersey, and graphics had really gotten prevalent, as you guys know, over the 90s. And what we were calling this was a gel print. This is literally a thick screen print over cotton. There's literally no breathability right here. Wherever you see this graphic, it's heavy, it's hot. Cotton, as you know, once you start to sweat in it, it's really not gonna dry. And you can see this one here. This is probably from one of those hot nationals, maybe somewhere out in Florida. A lot of our guys, most guys would do this on the hot summer national races. They would actually cut slits into the jerseys. It was really common at the time to actually try and get some airflow. So you can see not a lot of technology going on here. As you look at the back of the jersey, we were still doing heat transfers for names and numbers at the time, which is also very hot. A little bit of padding in the elbows, probably a pretty baggy fit, so not super athletic at all. So as we moved on from this, we started playing around with sublimation and polyester materials. Now, it was a no-brainer to look at other sports. So soccer jerseys, that's an area that we still look at every year. Basketball jerseys, soccer jerseys, there's so much great stuff going on in stick and ball sports that we've adopted over the years. Why not? These guys are doing great things. Super high level athletes playing soccer, as you guys know. So we said, let's look at some of that and let's see what we can bring into moto. So in the, I'd say late 90s, early 2000, we introduced the first full polyester jersey in our line. I think it was called the O2 jersey. It changed the way we would do graphics. This is what we call sublimation. So the cool thing about that is it doesn't really affect the performance of polyester. The reason we switched to the polyesters, it's lightweight, it dries super quick, it's breathable. So we didn't want to mess that up with the graphic application. Well, sublimation, again in soccer, they were doing it all the time. And we were able to do an all-over graphic without affecting performance. As you look at our newest 360, we've got a solid polyester material on the main body, but we have vented side panels that are reaching from the front of the jersey now. So we're getting airflow on the rider, the front of his body, and it's reaching around to the entire back of the jersey. We have actually been designing and making our own helmets since 1997. And what I have here in front of me is our very first helmet. This is the Pilot. The idea here, when Pete was working on this, there was a few things, but one of the main things Pete was trying to do is he wanted to bring in airflow, more airflow than had ever been seen in a motocross helmet. So this is the initial shot at it. It was dual venting channels. So there's a nice intake in the front brow area here under the visor, and that was bringing air through two channels on the top of the helmet. This is a great shot of Carmichael's helmet. I'm sure a lot of you guys wouldn't tell me the exact year when Ricky wore this with the THQ and Cowie sponsorship. But one thing to note here, this is when Troy Lee had a fin thing going on. Like all of the pro riders were using these. This is actually a vacuum formed thin Lexan material that Troy was using at the time, and they were literally forming these at his shop in Corona. And most of the top level pro riders were using these. And the cool thing I remember about this is Troy would paint the helmets and paint the fin to match. And this happens to be one of Ricky's Pilot helmets that he was wearing at the time. And then we quickly moved into our second version of the Pilot, which we called the Pro Pilot. And that enhanced airflow. We redesigned the visor slightly, but the overall look was very similar. So the Pro Pilot, we started to get more riders in our helmets. We had Ricky Carmichael moving off of the brand that he was wearing and moving into the Fox Pro Pilot helmet. The late 90s, early 2000s is when we really started to make some headway with our helmet program. Another evolution for us were shell sizes, shell and EPS sizes. And what I mean by that is in the old days, you would have two shell sizes. A small medium would be shared, and then a large and an extra large would be shared. And you would do your fitting with your internal foam cheek pads and comfort liners. So what we wanted to do years ago with this newer version of the V3, we created 4 shell sizes and 4 EPS sizes to get a truer fit on a wider range of consumers out there. As we move on in the evolution of our helmet program, this is our brand new V3 helmet. You notice right away there's a vast difference in the shell shape here from what I've been showing you with the previous Pilot and the V3 helmet. The first thing you're going to notice is ventilation. So large ventilation through the chin bar, all the way back to the back section of the chin bar, also in the brow area. Not only are we venting through the front of the brow of the V3 helmet, we're also venting through the front of the helmet as well, channeling air through the visor into the front vents, and then exiting out the back of the helmet. So airflow was really important for us. One single large vent in the rear of the helmet, some lower vents here in the bottom. So airflow, that's really started to dictate the shell shape that we have here. One of the other things that we really wanted to work on is our protection system. So what we've done here with our chin bar system, we're actually calling this cage technology. Cage technology is we're able to use an injection molded polycarbonate chin bar that's anchored into the EPS system itself to give it great strength. Not only does the chin bar follow back here and anchor into the EPS, but it also covers the entire brow area. So this is giving us great strength through the brow area, anchored into the EPS to give us great strength as well. But another thing that we like about this is we're using a polycarbonate that's allowed to flex. As we go into the shell construction of the rest of the V3 helmet, this is a composite shell. So this is a carbon fiber Kevlar fiberglass shell construction for the balance of the shell. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it marries right up to our cage construction of the chin bar. There's large pieces of the polycarbonate that are actually being anchored into the EPS internal liner itself. Now internally with the EPS liner, we're actually using a Verazorb material now. It is a dual density EPS liner, a soft and a hard material that is constructed in a cone configuration. And this allows for better energy absorption and also spreading the energy over the EPS liner itself. And we're using a new system that we're bringing to life. It'll be exclusive to Fox in motocross helmets, and it's called Fluid, and we're calling it Fluid Inside. The idea behind Fluid is it mimics the body's natural protection system in the brain. And what you're using, or what the body uses, is cerebral spinal fluid. It's a fluid in between your brain and your skull, and this is a protective fluid that allows your brain to rotate or have a little bit of padding inside the skull, so your brain is not impacting the inside of the skull. There are 7 strategically placed pods inside the V3 helmet that help decouple the helmet from the rider's head. And when I say decouple, we want the helmet to be able to move independently of the rider's head when they have an angled impact. And the fluid is giving shear movement, meaning the fluid pods are allowed to move side to side. In addition to moving side to side, we're getting linear protection from fluid as well. There's a pad inside the pod itself that is protecting linear. When I say linear, we're talking about a straight impact. Finally, we've talked about the internal portion of the helmet. The external rotational system that we've been using for 2 years now is called MVRS. It's our magnetic visor release system. And we will continue to use MVRS on our brand new V3 helmet. So this will use 3 magnets on the helmet. So you've got magnets on either side of the helmet, and then a center magnet as well that'll allow the visor to release in the event of an impact. One of the things that we're really trying to cover here is having the visor stay on in the event of roost, but having it release in the event of an impact. We are now looking at our boots, and this is our brand new 2022 premium boot in our line. No. As we look back at boots, similar to helmets, we originally started with Racewear. So boots and helmets were something that came a little bit after. So in the 80s, we did see the need for boots in the range. And what we have here, we were talking earlier, I believe this was called the Super Fox. And you can see we were using Velcro closures. One cool thing in this Super Fox boot is an internal lace system. We actually use the internal lace system in our comp boot that's in our line right now. We always like this system to be able to pull a boot tight around the ankle area. So we'll jump very far forward from the Super Fox, and we'll move into our F3 boot. So when we had James Stewart on our program, this happened to be James's signature boot. This was, I believe it was called the Montage, was the Racewear graphic that we pulled this from. It's so dynamic as far as what riders are looking for, as far as stiffness, feel for the motorcycle, protection. It seemed like every time we were out testing boots, we were learning something new. I will say the F3s, and if you ever owned a pair, probably took quite a while to break in. They were very stiff. And we would soften these up for our pro level riders before they would get them. We would walk around the office wearing them to break them in and soften them up. And a lot of that stiffness came from protection that we were trying to build into the boot. So we were using a plastic medial guard to protect the rider from the inside of the motorcycle. We were actually using a suede on the inside of the burn guard area, which was very common at the time, to give the riders some grip on the side of the motorcycle. We learned a lot about boots with F3s, and that brought us to the introduction of our boot that we have in our line now is our premium boot, which is our Instinct boot. That came out in about 2011. So Instinct, again, quite a bit of time and thought put into Instincts based on F3's feedback from Ricky Carmichael, James Stewart on what could be better. Ricky was instrumental in helping us get the Instinct to where it is now. At this stage, we knew we needed better movement, we needed more mobility in the boot, but we also needed safety. So one of the things that we brought in to play on the Instinct was actually a hinge system. We knew we could get the lateral stability that we needed with a plastic hinge system, obviously linking on both sides of the ankle, but we had lateral support here, which was really important for us, but we also gained flexion right out of the box. This boot is allowed to flex and move freely, literally the minute you put it on. What we realized is as we were testing with our riders, there were guys that were saying, you could bring these to me at the track and I could literally race in them right out of the box. Another thing that we wanted to do was give the rider better feel for the motorcycle. That was critical. It was something we kept hearing from our top riders. So what we did is we introduced a rubber material, a Duratac material on the hinge system itself. So using Duratac here, but also bringing Duratac into the burn guard. So again, this is a rubber material. One of the more important things also with the hinge system, there's a mechanical lockout here. As the boot goes through its range of motion, the hinge will actually hit the heel cap here and it'll stop the movement of the ankle before you get into hyperextension. So another cool feature with our hinge system that we brought out on the new Instinct boot. Another really important thing for us was a very flat medial design, giving the rider the best contact points against the side of the motorcycle as well. Another big change for us was the sole construction. And you can see this is more of a running shoe or a tennis shoe construction here. So that gave us a very sleek, new, innovative look. Also internally, we wanted to get the rider's foot lower inside the boot. So we created an insole system that really got the rider's foot as close to the foot peg as possible to give them great feel for the motorcycle. So that was really important for us as well. In addition to that, we wanted a really low toe box design. We wanted something where the rider can easily get underneath the shifter and shift the motorcycle and again, have great feel for the controls on the bike while they're on the motorcycle. And then finally, our closure system. We created a Instinct closure system here. The buckle system is actually a ball and socket system here. We wanted the ball system here to float inside the lever itself. There's actually a socket here that receives the ball. And this allows for float. We have about 10 millimeters of float in the strap and the buckle itself. We wanted, as the boot moved through its range of motion, we didn't want the buckle system to restrict the movement on the boot itself. In addition to that, we removed the Velcro at the top of the boot. When we realized testing other boot brands, even our F3s, after you're riding, we always noticed the Velcro would be all wrinkled up or smashed against itself because we want this to be able to slide as it's going through its range of motion. You've gained all this movement with the hinge system. Why are you gonna lock it up with a Velcro closure at the top? This top buckle and the way we've designed this cuff system here, this is gonna seal around the pants. There's no dirt getting in here, and we want this to be athletic and have great mobility. So we took the step of removing the Velcro. And this has been in our line for quite a while. This is really our what we would call our 2.0. We made some adjustments with our outsole compound to improve durability on the outsole of the boot. But really, this brought us into the modern era of motocross boots for us. And obviously, we've had great champions like Ricky Carmichael, Ryan Dungey in our boots. Ken Roxon obviously is wearing the Instinct now as well. And mobility, stability, comfort, great feel for the motorcycle. Those are some of the key things we were targeting when we designed the new Instinct.
Man, what a cool experience. Fox, there's so much history there. Stay tuned next week. We're gonna take the two bikes, the 125 and the 250. We're gonna go showdown style. Enter weekly to win.